So AcroZombie II wants to know how to set up multiple triggers that must all be activated in order to make one event happen. And today we're knocking that out. I'm going to do an info video soon about buttons soon, by the way, due to there being something wrong with them. Let's get into it. Okay, from app setup, you're just going to want to have your triggers set out here. I'm using buttons, and I'm going to have them set to one-time use only, because the way this method works is if you trigger the same trigger twice, it will still work instead of you having to use this trigger and then this trigger. So make sure if you have an area monitor or something, you have it set to delete after using the first one, and then, you know, if you want to do it again, just have it to spawn again after the whole thing's done. But for the example, I have 2 buttons, and that's pretty much all you need to do, because I'm assuming you have a script you want to run, and this is completely unrelated to the tutorial, so it's just part of the, you'll see when we get into the script node here, because we're going to go ahead and start the scripting. That's all we got to do. Go ahead and bring our 2 buttons in. You'll see that I have stuff set up already, but I'll explain that at the end. It's not part of the tutorial, it's more just an example, and I'll explain that. So to start, we're going to go to custom events, and then we're going to go to on object interacted. We're going to duplicate that because it's going to be for both buttons. You're going to want to name your buttons though, so that way you know what's going on. I named mine try button 1 and 2 because it's the Triforce buttons. Pretty self-explanatory there. And then the last thing we're going to do with these 2 is we're going to create a trigger custom event. Just like that. The only thing we have to change on this is identifier, and I'm going to name it try, and I would name it Triforce, but my F key is still destroyed. So alright, just duplicate that, and then it still has your identifier. That's all you got to do there. Now we're going to use our holy trinity, but for a number variable. So declare number variable and get number variable. I'm going to go ahead and speed through this, and we'll get back to it. Okay, notice I didn't use set number variable because we don't have to do that this time. We're actually going to use a node that combines a couple of them. The identifier, you're going to want to name it buttons, because this is what we're doing is we're going to get the number of buttons we have, or number of triggers. I named it buttons because that's the triggers. They're the buttons. The initial value you want to make sure is 0, because if you have it set to empty, it gives weird results. So you're going to want to make sure that it's 0. As for the get number variable, same identifier. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is go to events custom and go to on custom event. And we're going to name the identifier of that the same thing as earlier, which is try. Because now when either one of these things happen, this one script will run. And that's what we want to happen. So we're going to go to logic now. And in logic, we have a node called increment number variable. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to plug that in like that. It's basically combining get number variable, add node, and set number variable into one. So you only have one node to deal with. So we're going to name this buttons because it's the same identifier as our number variable. And we're going to increment it by 1, scope local. Because every time a button is activated, it'll say, okay, this one button was activated. And then we're going to do something with that. Let's go over here, put this here, because now we're going to go into logic compare and grab a compare node. Go ahead and plug get number variable in here. And the operand A, you're going to want to make sure is equal to the amount of triggers you have. So I have 2 buttons, it is 2. If I had 3 buttons, it would be 3, and so on. So now all we need to do is grab a branch, plug it in here, go ahead and connect it. And the condition is A equals B. So basically it's gonna, every time a button is pressed, it's gonna run and say, okay, the buttons, how many were pressed? 2? Yes, okay. But if it's only 1, nothing will happen. And all you gotta do is plug in the if true to whatever script you want to run. And in this case, my example is here. Long story short, I just, on game start, I erase the Triforce, so that way we can just spawn it in with this script as the example. That's all that is over there. And that's it. This is all you need. So let's go ahead and give it a try, and we're going to try it a couple times. You can see 1, nothing happens. But if we press 2, spawns. I'm going to try it the second time just to show you the other order. There we go. Nothing happened. There you go. There's your example. So yeah, that works for any triggers. Just make sure you have a way so they don't double activate, or you can activate them more than once to trigger this thing until the whole thing's finished. And that's it. That's how you get multiple triggers set up for one event. And that's all it takes. Any triggers and any amount. This of course implies you don't care about the order. In case you do, I may do a video soon on how to set up triggers that must be activated in a sequence to achieve this. See you guys on another one.